Hello dear friends, welcome to Sparkle with Jyoti, and today's episode is going to be something different. It's going to be more informative, and I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Aayushi Rajurkar, and she's just 19, but if you speak with her, she doesn't look that, and she has several feathers in her cap. She's studying dentistry here in Sweden, and she has won the Gunnar Beckman Award. She has won the Swedish National Debate Championship, so she's really a all-rounder. She dances amazing, and without further ado, let's meet her and have a nice talk with her. Welcome Ayushi to my channel.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I will just ask you like few questions, and you can answer it to best of your knowledge. Okay. So first question is like, what would you recommend parents either to choose international school or Swedish school?
Well, it really depends on what your family situation is, because
Okay.
both schools have their pros and their cons, but it depends on whether you're here long term or short term. If you're here short term, then international school is always better because it's easier to
Right.
adapt. It will be in English, and then if you move back to wherever you're from, it's easier for your kids to switch schools.
Okay.
But if you're going to be here for the long term, because of the Swedish education system in the future when it comes to universities,
Right.
it's a lot easier if you're in the Swedish system and you have like grasp on the Swedish language,
Okay.
because it's very necessary. And both, of course, have their pros and cons. I've been to an international school my whole life, and
Okay.
the way they teach, I absolutely loved it. It's really analytical and practical, and it's just really great. But
Okay.
Swedish schools, of course, have their benefits. So
Okay.
it's really up to you, depending on how long you're here, which school you should choose to go to.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so my next question is, give me three reasons to study in Swedish schools or Swedish university.
Well, Swedish universities are very, very good universities. They're ranked very highly if you look at the world rankings. Especially, like Gothenburg University, Chalmers, Stockholm University, they're ranked really high. And the quality of education that they give is amazing. Their resources that they have, they're just really, really good universities to study in. And also there are other benefits, and most of the time you get these benefits if you have a Swedish PR.
Okay.
But if you have a Swedish PR, you don't have to pay any fees for Swedish universities.
Okay.
So no matter what you study, how long you study for, it's completely free of cost.
Okay.
And also, if you have a Swedish PR, and I think you have to, yeah, if you have a PR, you've lived here for a certain number of years, you get something that's called CSN, which is basically money from the government, which is kind of encouraging you or supporting you in your studies, and you can get two parts of it. So there's one part which is a grant, which is around 2,000 or 3,000 crowns a month.
Okay.
And you get that and you don't have to pay it back. And then there's a second part which you can take voluntarily, which is
Okay.
basically like a student loan,
Okay.
which can be around, I think, 6,000-7,000 crowns extra a month.
Okay.
And you pay it back once you've graduated and you have a job.
Okay.
And it's at a very minimal interest.
Okay.
So you're basically getting almost, I get almost 11,000 crowns a month from the government as an encouragement or support for all my books and everything to study. So, there are benefits to studying here.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and my next question is, what is Swedish education based on? Like, is it more on theory or is it more practical oriented?
It's a very good mix of both, I
Okay.
think. I can, of course, speak more for the international curriculum compared to the actual Swedish curriculum in Swedish schools.
Okay.
But what they really emphasize on is, of course, there's theory. You have to know the theory. But even if you just know the theory, you can't pass your exams or your tests because you need to be able to apply the theory.
Okay.
So just memorizing a book will get you nowhere. You have to understand what you're learning. You have to be able to apply it in unknown situations.
Okay.
And especially when you have certain assignments and stuff, you can't just go to Google and copy paste
Okay.
it into your document and say, this is what I
Okay.
researched. You have to, because you'll get a straight out 0. They will fail you. So you have to be creative, and you have to, again, it all comes down to understanding what you're learning and being able to apply it yourself. So it's a very good mix of both.
Okay, okay. That's really great. And my next question is, did you find any difficulty in studying here because of the lack of language, or did you know Swedish from the beginning, or did you learn? Can you tell me your experience about it?
Well, very simply, if you don't know Swedish, it's very difficult to study for your higher education when it comes to university. Swedish is something that, you really, really should have. And even though I've been here for a very long time, I studied at an international school, so my exposure to Swedish was pretty minimal. And even though we did study Swedish as a subject, you don't put that much emphasis on it because you don't know how long you're going to stay here, and so it all comes down to that. So I had Swedish as a subject for many years, but I started putting effort into actually learning it in, I think, 10th or 11th grade when I decided that, okay, no, I do want to study here. And I did a lot of extra courses, summer courses, extra reading, all sorts of stuff like that. And then I had to do extra exams because I was in the international curriculum and I didn't have the Swedish. Because most of the courses that you have here is at a bachelor's level, I would say like 80%, 90% of them are in Swedish. So there are only a handful of courses that are available in English. And if those courses are courses that you want to do, then you don't need Swedish. But major courses, if you talk about, the major streams of interest, if you go towards engineering, if you go towards the medical side, if you go towards maybe the social sciences, most of them will be in Swedish. So you don't have an option of studying. You're not eligible to apply if you don't have Swedish as a subject that you have studied as a first language, as an A language. So it's something that you really, really need to have if you plan to study your bachelor's here. Your master's, there are many English options available, but not for bachelor's.
And I would like to point out that Aayushi was really brave in taking a break of 1 year and really giving time to study Swedish, am I right?
Yes.
And that's just really brave because it's such a big decision at such a young age, and really that's a great of her that she took her time and learned and then went ahead in a career. So yeah, great job.
Thank you.
So next question is, what is your biggest takeaway about living and studying in Sweden?
One of the best things that I've experienced studying here is because I was in an international school, you have people that are from all over the world. You're exposed to all different, sorts of cultures, sorts of languages, people, like all that. So it makes you very, very open-minded. As compared to maybe, if you're in a Swedish school and you're used to being surrounded by only Swedes, maybe you don't have that exposure. It's the same if you're in any other country. If you're surrounded by one kind of people or people from only a certain type of culture, you don't have the exposure to meet people from different parts of the world. And because I got that, it just makes me more understanding and more open-minded towards meeting new people and meeting all kinds of people. And again, like I said this before, that because there's so much emphasis on understanding the theory and applying it to the practical and being very analytical with everything you do and being creative and, not just copy-pasting, it shapes you as a person, I think, in a really good way, which is very helpful to things outside of school. I notice now when I'm in university that the IB curriculum stuff we did there, I'm applying now and I'm like, oh, we have done this, or I have experience doing this. Or if you think about when I used to debate, the analytical thinking that you have to think on your feet, that really helps when you apply it to other sorts of situations. So when it shapes your thinking in that way, I think you can apply it to so many other things, and you don't realize it then, but you realize it later how much it helped you.
Right. Okay. And would you like to give any message to your younger friends or the younger generation about studying abroad, and what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's very difficult when you're younger to know where you want to study, so it's difficult to take decisions. But if you can do things that, keep your options open for multiple things. If you think about, because when you're younger, learning a language is a lot easier than when you're doing it when you're older.
That's
and
right.
I did it when I was 17, and it was still tough for me. So when you're 8, when you're 9, when you move, if it's as simple as you're reading storybooks, you're watching cartoons, even if you're here for short term, there's no harm in learning the language. So if you do put that effort, or not even extra effort, just like normal day-to-day effort into getting the grasp of the language early on, it will help you later, because by the time you graduate high school, you will have such a great command of the language, and you won't have actually, been sitting and studying the language for 4 hours, because that doesn't help. You need time.
Right.
So focus on the language early on, whether you're here for long term or short term, because you never know. Sometimes, we came here initially for a short term, it ended up being
that's
long term. So plans change.
Yeah, that's
So focus on the language, focus on your basics, as simple things as math. You can't drop math in the IB. You have to take math. So you can't just be like, I'll do it till 10th and then I'll forget about it. No, because you have to do it in 11th and 12th. So if you have your basics, if you have your algebra, all the little things that later on it just helps you get to where you want to go.
Right, you can never escape maths wherever
No.
Okay, and as language, I agree completely, because at this age when I'm trying to learn Swedish, it's really a task. But yes, I mean, if you have to live in Sweden, there's no other option. So it's always
Exactly.
good to learn as soon as you come. Anything learning new it's no harm. Like, it's always good, and you can
It
use
will
it
help
later
you
on.
somewhere or the other.
True. And I wanted to check with you. Another question is like, what are your top favorite 3 things in your free time, like when you're not studying, not achieving something?
Well, I like to bake a lot.
Okay.
I like to bake different things, cupcakes, cakes, cookies, all sorts of stuff. I like spending time with my friends, which most people do, having coffee, being outside, watching Netflix. I love watching TV shows.
Okay, that's
and
great.
yeah, and dancing, of course. I don't get to do that a lot nowadays. I've been on a little bit of a break from it, but I do want to get back into it because I think it's so much fun, and it's a great way to just get rid of your stress and
Right,
let
that's
loose.
true. Okay, so my last question, but not the least, is why did you choose medical field and that to dentistry? I'm just curious.
Well, when I was in school, my favorite subjects were always the sciences. I liked chemistry, biology, math. So I knew that whatever I wanted to do, I wanted to have, go in that direction basically. And my grandmother is actually a doctor. So whenever I used to visit her, I would go to her hospital, I would shadow her, see what she worked with. And I got to go, if you can call it behind the scenes, like go in the labs and see how everything worked. And I always thought it was very interesting. So that kind of pushed me more towards the medical side. And one of the advantages of it, of course, is living in Sweden. It's a very lucrative field, and it's always a very respected field. So I thought, if I can work with something that combines what I enjoy, what I think is interesting, as well as something that I can get, that can be lucrative for me in the future, I thought, why not go down that line? So that's why I ended up going towards dentistry.
Okay. And hope you're enjoying your current studies and
Yes,
new everything.
definitely.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay. Great, Aayushi. Thank you so much for coming to my channel and giving your valuable time and sharing valuable insights with us, so that it will be really great for the parents who are looking forward for a lucrative career for their kids. And I hope, guys, this video helps you in some way. And if you have any further questions or any detailed questions which we couldn't cover in this video, you can send me an email to info@sparklejyoti.com, and I'll be really happy. We'll be really happy to answer these questions. And thank you, guys. Keep watching and do subscribe the channel to find some great videos. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.